Welcome to the Software Process and Measurement Cast number 710. Today, Daniel Doiron's new book, Seeing Money Clearly, challenges Agile Centers of Excellence to view decision-making through the lens of Throughput Accounting. Throughput Accounting is a lot of things: an accounting system, a financial application, a process of ongoing improvement, and, first and foremost, the decision-making arm of the theory of constraints that all of us have wrestled with and thought about from Eli Goldratt's The Goal and other lean texts. Daniel's bio. I am the only CPA in the world. Negative assurance is provided to give a one-day throughput accounting class to a CPA chapter in Quebec within the scope of their mandatory professional development program. A few CPA chapters in the world give a diluted throughput accounting class in recorded format and ignore the 5 focusing steps. They're critical, thereby disqualifying them from the spirit of throughput accounting. Daniel states, for Agile CoEs, I wrote the only throughput accounting book dealing exclusively with knowledge work. It has received rave reviews from the top minds in throughput accounting, as I have brought numerous novelties never thought of before. In short, Seeing Money Clearly teaches CPAs to make more money now and in the future, and teaches Agile CoEs to mint money. Download Seeing Money Clearly at www.agileagonist.com. Link in the show notes. Are you ready to see money clearly? It's time for the interview. Daniel Doiron, author of the Throughput Accounting Series for Knowledge Work, Volume 1, Seeing Money Clearly. Welcome to the Software Process and Measurement Cast.
Hey, it's a pleasure to be back.
And back is right. You have been here a couple of times.
Yes.
Let's start with something that is both easy and opens up a can of worms.
Absolutely, it will.
What is throughput accounting?
Well, throughput accounting is, and actually it's really funny because you're bringing, the title of the book is Seeing Money Clearly. Okay. And I was having issues with my title, and Donald Reinhardt said, why don't you say Seeing Profits Clearly? And I said, wow, that's a great title. And then I submitted that to Etienne Duploy, who's a guru in throughput accounting, and he says, Daniel, you want which side of the where do you want your slap in the face? On the left or on the right? We're about money. We're not about profits, because you can have profits for 10 years going and not have 2 pennies to rub together. And this is where throughput accounting is at. It's to make money. Profits are illusions. You can look good, but I can have 20 different ways to make your income statement look perfectly good and your balance sheet look stellar, and you won't have a penny to bring to the bank. So this is what throughput accounting is about. Money, money, money. Real tangible money.
So when you backed off of the word profit and moved to the word money, how did that change how you thought about the topic that you're writing on?
Well, I needed a title. Okay, my title was lame in the first place. Replacing the word seeing money clearly instead of seeing profit clearly perfectly fits the book, because the book was almost all the way written. I was having John Ricketts review the book, the foremost authority in throughput accounting and theory of constraint, according to Dr. Eli Goldratt himself. Dr. Goldratt said John Ricketts is the person who pushed theory of constraint in throughput accounting to the limit in terms of application. And then I had Donald Reinhardt, which we all know, looked at the book also for the simple good reason that I have a chapter at the end, which is variation on a theme from Donald Reinhardt. And this basically motivated me to change the title so that it really resonates and catches the eye.
Okay, let's cut to the chase. The word accounting.
Yes.
The word accounting. My grandfather wanted me to be an accountant, but I like many other hyperactive people hear the word accounting and fall instantly asleep. Why?
Yes.
Why are you so passionate about this topic? Why does it matter so much?
Well, accounting is the perfect cure for insomnia, right? And so you got to get away from there and thread the needle to what it should be in the first place. The first place should, of course, be to gain visibility over money and to be able to make decisions. And there are two fields to accounting. There's management accounting, which is the poor child of accounting, and there's financial accounting, which is the 900-pound gorilla who has all the money and can audit the books. And these CPAs, like we call them, they got to go by rules and regulation, which eases the pain of communicating financial data across firms and across industries, but takes away the power of decision making. And what happens in real world is that people are using these financial accounting data to make decisions internally, and it basically takes the fun and the joy out of decision making inside the company. And this is why basically accounting is so boring. Not so much for those who make money off it, auditing financial statements and giving the taxman its due, but for those who make decisions internally, they're really stuck between a rock and a hard place because they have nothing. They have literally nothing. And the key to making good decisions internally is to let go of all that we know of financial accounting and use throughput accounting to understand how money flows inside a company. And this is what is lacking. Financial accounting has totally distorted the way that we ought to see money flowing inside a company.
You had a great statement in the book, and I'll quote, "Today, many flawed mental models that are the fabric of society," and I think you were just alluding to those,
yes,
find their roots in the very origins of accounting. So
yes,
can you give us an example of one of those flawed mental models?
Well, the mother of all flawed mental models is at the beginning, in the early 1900s, accounting was like the Wild West, anything went and everybody could basically do everything. But there was a big problem. It was to find the cost per unit, the carrying cost per unit. Because sales, if I sell you a pen for $1, the amount of revenues is pretty straightforward because it's contemporaneous to sale. But the cost of the pen eludes everyone and still is today because the cost of anything is unknown and unknowable. Let that be said to everybody listening. So you have to come up with some form of cost allocation. And these recipes for cost allocation are the holy grail of financial accounting, but not financial accounting, cost accounting, which is the twin cousin of financial accounting. Cost accounting only exists to suit the needs of financial accounting. And this is why the biggest flawed mental model is to think that these cost accounting data has any purpose or meaningfulness in terms of making decisions. And the biggest flawed mental models that we have still today in accounting is that cost accounting occupies the space of financial accounting because it's meant for that purpose, but it comes and sneaks in the whole perimeter of management accounting. It has no business there, and it corrupts everything. And we just cannot make decisions with the standard accounting models that we've been raised to abide and to respect, because they mean nothing. And cost accounting You need a cost in order to derive a profit for a product. But in throughput accounting, there's no cost per product and there's no profit per product. You basically make a decision, and are you going to make money on that decision today? And the biggest benefit to throughput accounting is that you, I, and your brother and your neighbor can understand it very, very quickly, because there's only two costs to master: the totally variable costs, those which vary directly with sales on a one-to-one correlation factor, and all the other costs. In financial accounting, you got about 25 costs, which I'm going to spare you naming. And this simplifies the whole decision-making process and puts joy into working again, because everybody is on the same level. And we know the decentralization principle, decentralization decision-making. Throughput accounting is there, suits that principle perfectly.
So let's take something that's relatively easy, relatively,
Yes.
because we could make it significantly more or less easy. I'm a software company. I make software. I know it's intangible, right? We're not shipping disks anymore or things like that, but it's intangible. Mm-hmm. How does throughput accounting, if I was using throughput accounting instead of cost accounting, how would I use throughput accounting to make decisions?
Yes. Well, you see, the biggest mistake that people make, especially when making software and having projects, is that they are going to take the labor costs. So they're going to say, we're going to take 10 of our employees and consultants, which we're going to pay anyway this year, $2 million, and we're going to deduct these salaries from the profits or the sales or the benefits that we're going to have from these projects. Well, this is wrong, because those costs should not have any impact on decision making, but we take them into account and we discard projects that are totally profitable. I'll give you the best example possible. In the 1920s, if you were to make a chair and your chair was not fit for purpose, well, you were not paid. And in that sense, labor costs were variable. But today, if your software doesn't work or there's a bug into it, you will still be paid, right? So it's no longer a variable cost, it's a fixed cost. And fixed costs are irrelevant for decision making, because you're going to have to pay these salaries. And basically, sadly enough, all of your projects that you have in software development, when you take into account the salaries of the workers and to determining which project is going to go or not, well, you're shooting yourself in the foot, and you're going to turn down projects that are very profitable, and you're going to accept projects that are less.
What costs or what other variables would you take in account if you weren't taking into account people?
Well, the people, basically, you see, the thing with software and these decision making is that the concept of totally variable costs that exists for manufacturing. Like if I buy glue exclusively to make chair, well, the glue is a totally variable cost and has to be accounted in a certain way. It's pertinent. But when you come to software, the electricity that I pay for the servers and the server that I pay for that particular function, they cannot be traced to the sales that you're going to make. So the concept of totally variable cost sort of goes away. And this, at the same time, simplifies everything, because basically then all that you have to really care about is your revenue stream, see how much money you can make, and try to, the 5 focusing steps, increase your capacity, the operating expenses. If you act on the constraint when you develop and you know where your constraints is, you can probably make 3-5 times the amount of software that you're already making. And this is understanding the nature of fixed costs. Accounting and financial accountants will do anything and everything that they can to make fixed costs behave like a variable cost, which it is not nature. This is what throughput accounting kicks in. It says, if you've paid for something, you can use it as much as you want. Financial accounting will say, not only did you pay for it, but you have to account for it as well when you use it, which basically ups the bar for every decision that you can take. And this is another flawed mental model that the accounting brings to financial accounting, that is, bring to the table in terms of decision making. So if you use throughput accounting and you don't master the 5 focusing steps of the theory of constraint, get out of here. It goes hand in hand.
Why is this such a hard concept to actually implement in organizations?
Well, you see, let's not kid ourselves. The accountants who rule the world are CPAs, the financial accountants who can audit statements. And I won't tell you what Eli Goldratt and Taichi Ono said about accountants, but in a nice way, they said that they were public enemy number one. And that's the reason why throughput accounting it is not like rampant everywhere in the industry. But I will tell you this, maybe 0.1% of firms in the world use throughput accounting, but they are enormously big companies, like enormously big companies that understand the value of it and kind of not necessarily afford it, but have enough brain power to understand it. But places where, like you don't have that clout in terms of ties or whatever, where the accountants rule the show, chances are that you're not going to get a throughput accounting in there anytime soon.
So obviously, as part of your practice, part of writing the book, you have seen organizations that have adopted throughput accounting. Large, probably, probably not all of them large, but where you have, what is the number 1 and number 2 results that you would point to in terms of benefits to the organization?
Well, I think that the most significant benefit, again, throughput accounting and the 5 focusing steps. You need to understand that there is brown money and that there is green money. Okay. And when you want to talk about profit and improving, well, those improvement initiatives like Lean and Six Sigma and 5 Whys and Kanban and CMMI, not necessarily Kanban, but they will come for your improvement initiative and already have a plan for you to spend money on improving. But if you take the approach of focusing on the 5 focusing steps, identifying the constraint, doesn't cost the time. You just take your people and you say, instead of doing this, do that. It's operating budget, it's brown money. And then you exploit the constraint. And then you subordinate to the constraint. But you can quadruple and quintuple your benefits of bringing in green money by not spending a dime of green money, by just changing the way people operate. Of course, there's a bit of change management to be done. But this is what people basically enjoy, is that they feel empowered. And once they realize that they don't have to get green money, fresh money to get started, they really love it. And it happens all the time. For example, when I was at Scotiabank a long time ago, the concept of green money and brown money stuck around. They still use it today. Whenever you want to improve, think of brown money. Think of changing the way you see the constraint, avoid the constraint, you identify the constraint. I'll give you an example. Let's say that you and I, we go for a bite at 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock every day, but we're the constraint. So when we go for a bite for 1 hour, the constraint is done. So it's very easy to say, I will go for lunch for 1 hour and you stay where you are, you work. And then when I come back, you go for lunch. Okay? And this way, the constraint keeps running. And this. What did it cost them? Nothing. But what are the benefits in terms of green money? Enormous. So this is the key. If you want to do throughput accounting, you use brown money and focus on the constraint. And this is basically the key recipe.
So I think that the whole idea of brown money and green money makes a lot of sense.
Yes.
I think it's one of those things that you could wrestle with in an organization without having to start a war between the management accountants and the financial accountants.
Yeah. But you see, when I wrote the book, okay, and I was talking about brown money and green money, a lot of people that write books on throughput accounting try to find one book, only one, that talks about brown money when you tackle the first 3 steps of the 5 focusing steps. And then they talk about green money when you're getting to the 4th or the 5th step. No one does it. So there's a lot of new integration that I've done and new, obviously, inventions also that I've contributed in throughput accounting in that book. And it's just a matter of why the heck didn't you think about it in order of conveying the message that basically throughput accounting for identifying, subordinating to the constraint and exporting the constraint basically can cost you almost nothing. And you get to unleash incredible amount of capacity in doing so. And by unleashing an incredible amount of capacity, well, you bring green money in, which is the whole purpose of the thing.
That's the purpose of actually doing anything, isn't it? At least in business.
Yeah, I would say so. But you see, it's not to diminish people who use Lean and Six Sigma and Pro-C and CMMI. I'm just saying, if you love the way that you do, the affection that you have for these methods, well, can you just focus on the constraint and then have fun? Instead of going into saying, oh, we're going to improve and now we're going to change this, we're going to invest there, we're going to do this, and it's going to cost. Already before you started going for financing, which is green money, which is not the smartest idea in the world. Okay? And by focusing on the constraint, you can have the toys that you want, Lean, Six Sigma, but please just focus on and find the constraint. This is what the 5 focusing step and the theory of constraint will give you.
Daniel, this is not your first book, but why take the time, the effort to write this book?
Well, there were underlying motivation. I wanted to draw a line in the sand because I only have so many days left before Christmas. I'm getting old, and the book will be free because I won't make any money selling that book, but because I'm not an established author. But I wanted to take 8 months to myself, write the thing, because I had a lot of things that I wanted to tell, because I had a lot of innovation that I thought would or would not stick. But at least if I write it down, people are going to say, it doesn't make sense, makes sense, but at least it's mine. Drawing a line in the sand, let's see if I have made much money in my life, if at least I can have something,
It is a phenomenal book. As I told you before we started up, I'm not all the way through it. I have skimmed through it all. It is
really good.
Go on. Here's the question. I think it's important for people who want to pick it up. What do they need to know before they start reading the volume 1 of your Throughput Accounting series for Knowledge Work, volume 1, Seeing the Money Clear? What do they need to know before they start reading this?
Well, basically, the book is really refreshing because it's never been written before. I've submitted it to quite a few experts in the field of throughput accounting, and they found it really enjoyable. And this is what I would like to tell people. If you really want to get a new experience coming out of left field, that you never felt before, well, read that book because it's never been written before. I had a lot of fun writing it, and I touched on a lot of things. Like I think my favorite chapters for now is the last chapter, which is the variations on a team by Donald Reinhardt.
Yeah, that was
And
great.
Donald, yeah. And what I did is I had Donald Reinhardt, all of his principles from his book, everything. And then I had John Ricketts, who's the most knowledgeable person in throughput accounting and and I see, do these two fit? What is the percentage of conviviality between the two? And it's pretty amazing. It's pretty fun. Because Donald, even Mr. Robinson said, there's a lot of good stuff in there and interesting ideas. And I just
Wow, that's high praise.
Well, I when I submitted the book, Mr. Reinhardt, because I very well said, "Hey, I'm busy, my friend, and another day, another time." And the same with John Ricketts, and they don't have time to. They don't have time for petty things. And when they read the book, they started reading it. They said, "Wow, I really like it." And Mr. Ricketts and Mr. Reinhardt, have given me good feedback.
Mm-hmm.
And that pleases me because, and there's also other heavy hitters in the field that are saying it's so refreshing, and I'm going to put them on the back flip of the book once it's all over, because there are some big names,
sure.
And I'm really proud of what I've done. Really
Should people have read The Goal before they've done this?
No. It's a book that it's for everybody. Eli Goldratt said something, about inherent simplicity.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't need a class to understand inherent simplicity. You just go and dive into the book, and it's pretty enjoyable and it's pretty straightforward. That chapter 3 was a bit, on the math side, but other than that, the color of money and all the other chapters are pretty enjoyable. I also made some contrast on people that are talking about opportunity costs. Everybody gets it wrong, so I put a little page or two on that topic. I'm fighting the misconceptions that people have towards counting money and seeing money clearly.
Daniel, we could go on for a long time, and the book is just filled with all sorts of great ideas.
Yes.
If you woke up tomorrow morning, someone gave you a magic wand and your caffeinated beverage of choice and said you had the power to change any two things that affect how people view throughput accounting, what would those two things be and why?
Well, the first thing that I'm doing, is I'm getting on the case of CPAs across the world. Okay, I'm the first CPA to through the CPA chapter of Quebec to give throughput accounting to CPAs that have to maintain their certification and their license every year. So I've got a channel there. It took me 2 years to get there. So first I got to get the CPAs. And then when this is done, hopefully my book could pass the test of time and be enjoyed by everybody and be talked about and discussed, because it will be free forever. You can use it, distribute it, put it on your website, put it in your bedroom and laminate it. It's there for everybody to read. And I hope that people everywhere will have the pleasure to read it, because it's really, I'm very happy about the end results.
Well, I've enjoyed it so far. Daniel, you keep saying the book's free. How would they first find the book? How would they then, after they've read it, how would they continue the conversation with you?
Well, The book is basically on my site, free to download, agileorganist.com. And I'm always open to comment and criticism. And what I will do is I will create probably at some point cross-reference of comments that people have made in relation to sections of the book. And I already have a name for this meta repository. It's going to be the bluff repository, the bottom line up front, where readers will be able to express themselves and say, you know, that section, I would say this. Because Donald Reinhardson, Mr. Reinhardson, gave me an idea. He said, you have got to put all of these brilliant ideas and put them in business language like, hey, this is what you do, and this is what is wrong, and this is how you should do it. But I don't have time to restructure the book. I'm going to probably leave that to the readership and the bluff section, the bottom line up front. I'm thinking about that because I don't have all that's required to put the business side of this by myself. Is going to take on the books. It all is written for all intent and purpose. But when Mr. Reinhardson says, hey, do this, I think I should take it into it.
Is that sort of the preface to getting to volume 2?
Yes, it could be. But volume 2, I have plenty of new ideas as well. For example, for financing and funding and incremental funding and risk management, which are all in the making. But maybe that the second book will be how to treat my first book as a business person. That could be a good idea as well. Thanks for mentioning it. Yeah.
I cut you off or took you down a different path because you really only got one shake of the magic wand. What would be that second shake of the magic wand?
Oh, but I thought I said it. I want everybody to read my book. The CPA I'm going to conquer, but then people all over have to read my book and share it with everyone. Okay?
All right.
So that I thought that was my second part, the two parts. CPAs I'm going to take care of, and the rest is for the readership to go and distribute the book, talk about the book, and give it for free to anyone, friends and foe. Just send them the book.
Well, we'll certainly have the listenership get to the book and make sure there's a link in the show notes that takes them there so that they can read it, they can react to it. Before we go to what you want to promote, so far, what has been the section that got the most response, let's say?
Well, actually, it depends on the audience. Because there is a big deliverable. There are two things that only the Throughput Accounting does. It's the pools and flows of money diagram, which is a deliverable that only Throughput Accounting has. And there were sort of 5 or 6 versions that were lying around. And I decided to reunite them, put my salt and pepper, and bring a new one, and it's in the book. And the Throughput Accounting people are really happy about that. The Agilists, when they want to manage a plan and get the plan executing very fast and with tracking common thought and managing plans on the time dimension instead of the scope dimension, which has an unlimited amount of degrees of freedom, these Agilists really love it. They really love it. And the color of money, basically CFOs, they sort of, oh boy, I didn't think of that. But my personal favorite in terms of emotion for me is the last chapters, the variations on a team by Donald Reinhardson. Because I had this thing, Principle V11 from Donald Reinhardson ever since he wrote the book. Buffers trade money for variability reduction. And I want to prove that I have a tool that can reduce variability without spending money. So, and this is the plot of the entire chapter 6, which pleases me no end.
Daniel, as you know, at the end here, I open up the platform for you to promote anything that you'd like. I didn't go back and look and see what you promoted before, but today, what would you like to promote?
Well, we're all Agilists, and in software development. And I think that getting out of the old rules and the way of doing things, that the popular ways of doing things have bestowed on us enormous pain by managing on the scope axis. And what I would like to know, and what I'd like people to understand now, is to go with time, manage through the time axis. It only has 1 degree of freedom because time can only go forward. So that finally we can bring harmony and peace and take some stress out of the software engineering community and the Agile community with all of these meetings and artifacts that we plan to produce to master and to tame the variability, because we manage on the scope axis. But if you manage execution on the time axis, you don't need these things. And it takes away all of the red tape that Agile supposedly should not have put there at the first place.
Daniel, I think this is a good place for people to stop, go get the book, the Throughput Accounting Series for Knowledge Work, Volume 1, Seeing Money Clearly, and then come back, re-listen to the podcast, then come back and have this discussion with you and find a way of interacting and sharing their observations.
Yeah, that would be great, because Throughput Accounting doesn't have a handbook as opposed to financial accounting that has one. And it would be a nice way to do it in an agile way where people would basically write the handbook. That would be great.
Well, you are the man to make that happen.
Hey, I'm the only CPA in the world to have finally succeeded in overtaking a CPA chapter to give Throughput Accounting classes, and I will take this to my grave.
Well, that you don't need to take it to your grave for a while because we need you out there. Daniel, thank you again for being here. And I look forward to doing this again once I get all the way through the book.
Yeah, you will enjoy it and it will change. And as a matter of fact, every time I change something in the book, there is a version history section that tells you everything major that I have changed, added, or deleted from version to version.
Fantastic. Looking forward to seeing change.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. In Reread Saturday News, this week, Chapter 1 of Coaching Agile Teams by Lissa Atkins. The chapter tackles more than just the question embedded in the title, exploring why a coach is needed, the path to becoming a coach, and both the mindset and the skills a coach needs. Remember, buy a copy, read along. Links in the show notes to buy a copy, links in the show notes to previous installments of Reread Saturday. In the next software process and measurement cast, we will map the attributes of flow explored in SPaMCAST 708 to the basic palette of flow metrics. This will complete the circle defining flow, establishing the basic attributes, and then identifying how to measure flow through its attributes. We'll also have a visit from John M. Quigley, who brings his alpha and omega of product development to the cast. If process improvement is a never-ending journey, why do so many people ask, are we there yet?